Hey there everybody, and welcome back to Sasquatch Speaks. This is Sasquatch, otherwise known as Gavisas. And today, I actually want to take a little bit of a departure. This will either end up being a longer video or a shorter video than normal. I'm assuming it's going to be longer because I actually have a lot of things to talk about, but it's really all just related to one event. So, I don't know, we'll see how this goes. Anyway, today is Thursday the 14th. Oh, wait, no, not the 14th, the 7th. What am I thinking of talking about? Of August 2014. That's probably what I was getting mixed up on. And I'm actually going to tell a little bit of a story about what happened on Tuesday the 5th. Now, for those of you who do or do not know, I suppose you're about to find out, Tuesday the 5th, at least here in Michigan, was our primary for what is going to be the for the elections that are coming up in November. Nothing like really big. Well, I guess it is kind of big because in Michigan it's the second biggest one we can do. We're voting for our governor and congressmen and senators and all that sort of fun stuff, and state legislature. In the past, I haven't always been the biggest into politics, but within like the last 4 or 5 years, I have discovered that it is an incredibly important thing to be aware of, and so I have done my best to be aware of it. I've never really done anything all that intensive in terms of like strategizing or joining a campaign or anything else like that, or heavily campaigning for one person over another. I've certainly made my opinions known to a number of people, but I've never actually actively taken a role until this last Tuesday. And kind of to give you a little bit of a backstory into how I got into this. You know how you get to the polling centers and there's all those people outside polling for one candidate or another, and you just kind of okay, they're here, they're doing their thing, you just kind of move on. And maybe if you're curious about one of the candidates, you haven't made up your mind yet, but you know you should vote, and you should vote. It's kind of important. It will determine probably your future. Just throwing that out there. I know some people can't vote yet because they're not old enough, and I realize that I have some audience members who are not of that age, but to those of you who are, I do highly recommend it. In fact, I implore you to, even if you're voting against what I have to say, because you should have your voice, and I will support that right, even if it's against what I think. However, and this might come up as very hypocritical because of one of the topics I have for in the future, but bookmark this and come back, and then you can laugh at me because I'm going to be very hypocritical about this in the future. But yeah. Anyway, so a couple days before, it was like Sunday evening. I got this phone call from a guy that I know, and he asked me if I wanted to be one of those people who sits outside all day long and just polls for these people right outside of the actual voting center. And I'd never done anything like that before. The closest I've ever done to an active political event was I got invited to go down to the State of the State address at the beginning of this year with a group of people that I encountered several years ago, and they just happened to come across my name again, just well, hey, let's invite him. Okay, I'm not really doing anything better right now, so I went down there, and it was eye-opening and also kind of terrifying because just everything you can possibly imagine, and then the things that you can't imagine, happen in the state capitol, especially around big events like that. It's if you've never gone, I recommend that you do, and if you have gone, you know what I'm talking about, so you don't have to be aware of that. But go with some sort of established group. Find something that you care a little bit about, and ask them if you can go with them, because I'm sure it's almost like Rule 34 on the internet, but not in that context. More along the context of there is some sort of special interest group out there. There is some sort of interest or weird thing that people want to be done through the government. There's a group that's there to support it, and you should just go find that group, and if it's something that you care about, and go with them, or go with something you really don't care about, and you just kind of pretend that you do. That might be more fun, just because you get to laugh at them the whole time, but secretly, because if you do it openly, then they'll probably get really mad at you and not let you back on the bus to get home. That was completely free. You can take that as you will. Anyway, but like I said, this friend of mine called me up on Sunday. He's like, hey, I got this guy who asked me if I could help him out with my campaign. He doesn't have enough people to go to all the polling centers. Would you be willing to help? And I'm like, well, I don't really have anything else planned for the time slot that you have me to be there, so sure, maybe I can meet some new people, get things set up and running for my business, or get some new contacts or clients, whatever. Win-win. Plus, I get to be outside and get a little bit of sun. I wish. Okay. So, he says, okay, well, I'm going to need to pick you up at about 6 o'clock on Tuesday morning. I'm like, I'm reconsidering this because I know in the past I was very, very sick, and so I was sleeping like 18 hours a day at minimum. But since then, I've gotten back to normal, and I'm more normal sleeping schedule, or at least in terms of amount, perhaps not in the actual hours I sleep, because I'm a night owl. I like to be up late. I stay up later than most people, and as a result, I get up later. I sleep the exact same amount of hours as other people do. It's just I sleep them at different periods, which is it's kind of a thing that is. It's not really anything special. Just kind of an interesting point. So when he said I'm going to need to pick up at 6 a.m., I'm like, okay. So that means I have to get up at 5 and get dressed and all that kind of stuff. And so okay, so we get out there and we go and have breakfast first, and so we can be at the polling station by 7. And I was sitting in there. I suddenly looked up and I realized it was raining. And I'm like, that's not a good thing. I mean, I assumed that it might, so I brought an umbrella. But I was not very thrilled to see that it was going to start the day raining. So that was the thing. So we finished up eating and it settled down. I'm like, okay, well maybe it'll be done till later. And we pull up and he drops me off and he's going to this other polling station. So I set up my little chair there and I get my sign planted in the ground. And I just sit down and all of a sudden you hear this crack, boom. There's this huge roll of thunder and lightning and everything. And all of a sudden the heavens opened up and rain descended upon my little chair. And I'm like, oh God, what did I get myself into? So I hastily snapped open my umbrella and kind of wedged it in between the chair and my head, because I had like one of those canvas folding chairs that fold up vertically, and then they have like little bag they go in. So I had like my lunch and my jacket and everything kind of crammed in the back of that canvas bag, and then slung over the back so that it wouldn't be on the wet ground or it wouldn't get rained on because we were under the umbrella. And this is a lot of useless details that aren't really pertinent, but it's just kind of a retelling of events. So if you don't like it, skip to the end. Skip to like 10 minutes, and you'll get to the interesting part. Anyway, so I'm sitting there like this, and I got my little umbrella wedged in there, and all of a sudden I realized, oh crap, I have a little umbrella, and I am an exceptionally large man, and I'm getting rained on despite being under this little tiny umbrella. It wasn't like heavy rain upon me. Well, at least not upon like my head. Everything else was getting wet. But I'm just sitting there like, man, this is miserable. And there's like nobody coming in, because first of all, it's like 7 in the morning and nobody's up at that hour. It's just ungodly. And then it's raining, and it's a primary, not the actual election. And so there's like going to be less people anyway. And then on top of that, like I said, it's raining and it's really early and there's nobody there. I'm just sitting there for like a full hour, and there's like 2 people that showed up. And I think that they were actually like the polling people who were inside and handing out the ballots. And I'm like, man, what did I get myself into? And I stayed there for about an hour, and I suddenly realized that I was actually sitting inside of like a pool of water that had formed inside of my little chair. And I'm like, well, this isn't good. So I stand up and I fold it up and I try and like keep everything dry under my umbrella while I'm standing next to it. And like promptly at 8 o'clock, this car pulls in and just kind of parks there. And this guy gets out and he puts up a sign for a rival candidate. I'm like, okay, well that's kind of a thing. We just kind of like said hi and didn't really think about it for a couple of minutes. But was like, you know what? It is 8 in the morning. It's pouring down rain. This guy's dressed in a very nice business suit. I'm dressed in like this t-shirt for the candidate that I was helping that wasn't in my district, that I couldn't vote for, that I had no interest in whatsoever. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really have a horse in this fight. Let's just talk to the guy. So we started talking, and he told me about all the campaign and stuff, and the candidate that he's there supporting and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, well, by the way, my name is, and I told him my name, and I'm not going to tell you all my name. Some of you know, those of you who don't, you don't for a reason. Ha ha. So I introduced myself, and he goes, yeah, and he said the name of the candidate on the sign, and I'm like, so you're the guy? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, this is an opportunity that I never get. So, because usually when you encounter anyone in the political realm, they're always being watched. They always have some sort of camera, or they're behind a podium. There's a crowd of people, and I'm like, it's me, this guy, in the thunderstorm. Nobody's listening to what we're saying. Even if they was like standing 5 feet away from us, they can't hear us because of all the thunder and the rain and the pouring down. And there's no trees or anything to hide under. It's just open field. You have to be 100 feet back from the door, and it's a mess. Anyway, so I just struck up a conversation. I'm like, so why are you here at 8 o'clock in the morning when you could be anywhere else? And he's like, well, this is my first time running. I'm really concerned. He starts going through his platform, and I'm like, I did a little bit of research on this guy because I wanted to make sure, I wasn't endorsing someone that I disagreed with personally. And so I'm like, your guys' platform sounds really familiar, really similar. So like I said, is a unique situation because usually, like I said, they always have some sort of camera on them. They're always in the spotlight, and they have to be very, very careful what they say. But I caught this guy at just the right moment where he was like unguarded, and it's just like, I gotcha. And so I just started asking, well, like, what is the difference between you and this guy? And he's like, well, that guy, he's trying to turn like Metro Detroit into this big financial hub, and I'm trying to do sort of a more of a technology-based thing because people in Michigan. Okay, I'm tangent time. People in Michigan for the last 100 years have dedicated themselves wholeheartedly to the preservation and the continuation of the automobile industry. And while there's nothing wrong with that, on the surface, there has been a grand shift in the economy around this area, which is being ignored by just about everybody. And it is refreshing on the one hand to be able to meet and hear that there are actually people who are thinking, okay, well, the automobile industry, yeah, it's still kind of here. I mean, like Ford is still doing okay, but like GM and Chrysler are like limping heavily, especially with like all the big recalls and stuff through GM and everything else like that. But Ford's doing okay. They're not doing great, but they're doing okay. But on the whole, and probably never again in the future, will the auto industry ever be what it was before. So to meet someone who could first of all have the guts to say, I see this as a thing that's happening, like the auto industry, it's not what it is, not what it was, and never will be again. And as a result, we need to change what Detroit is all about. I mean, yes, we'll always be the Motor City, yada yada, because that's where it was invented, and yada yada, so on and so forth. But he's like, hey, me and this other guy, we both see, hey, we need to make a change, we need to make a shift. Yes, we've been doing automobile, yeah, it's been working out pretty good, but we also need to be looking forward to the future and making sure that things are progressing in a direction that is beneficial for all of us. I'm like, okay, good, I like that platform. And for those of you who don't know, I work in the financial industry, so I like ribbing a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I work in finance, and so I'm maybe leaning a little bit more towards my guy. And we just got to talk, and like I said, it was a very unguarded moment for this guy. It's just kind of stuck with me, some of the stuff that he said, because we were kind of joking back and forth, because obviously we're endorsing different people, and actually, if I had it to do over, that's the words I was trying to say. If I had it to do over, and I'd known about this guy before, the other guy that I was endorsing, I would probably endorsed the guy that I met there, standing in the rain and the thunderstorm in his nice business suit. Where, as like I said, when he could have been literally anywhere else. But he cared enough about his campaign and his platform, his position, that even at 8 in the morning, with the thunderstorm like going on around him, like the worst of it too, because it did clear up later in the day, but just like the worst of it going on at that moment, in that place, at that time, just this deluge coming down upon him, and lightning and thunder and all that danger going on, he still cared enough, and the whole time he was there was like maybe 6 cars that pulled up, but he still stuck it out. He could have been like, this is a dead place, I'm going to go somewhere else where there's more. But, he just stuck. He was dedicated enough that he's like, I committed to this, I'm sticking it out. I was very, very impressed with him. But, usually when you encounter politicians in the wild, so to speak, they never drop character. They're always just 100% on all the time. Like, well, I am above reproach. I never have a human thought in my mind because I'm so much higher and heavier and more weighty matters come upon my brain than yours. And it's which has its purpose and has it. I suppose it's something that needs to be done to an extent, but it dehumanizes them, and it makes it very easy for people to really hate them. I mean, just in general. Like I said, I caught this guy at like one of the most unguarded moments, and so he was just very real with me. It's like, yeah, I'm here for this other guy. He goes, normally I'm supposed to say I'm just glad to see the younger generation coming out in support of politics in general. But he says, yeah, are you sure you don't have anywhere else you need to be? And like, no, I'm pretty. I was a little bit like him. I was committed to it. I was. The more I talked to him, the less committed I was to it. But the commitment that I gave to, I kept my word. That's really the point there. I said I was going to do it, and for better or worse, I was going to continue to do it because people ought to do what they say they're going to do. And if you cannot be counted upon to do that, then you probably shouldn't ever say that you will. Just kind of a rough statement, but it just is. Anyway, so this guy, he's there for an hour. Like I said, we just had a great conversation. I mean, complete opposite ends. Well, not complete opposites, because a lot of their core values were very, very similar, but their methodology was different, but still opposition. And which is another interesting thing, how in the political realm there are people who go against each other but have essentially the same ideals. And tangent time again. How is it that people can do that? I mean, they go, okay, well, that guy, he's running and he has the same ideals and things that I do, but I'm going to run against him anyway. I'm going to try and take away part of the vote or part of the constituency that he would probably get otherwise. And he has all the same ideals that I do, but I'm just going to run anyway. I don't know. That's probably one I have to think about some more. Because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me why people do that. I mean, unless they think like, okay, well, unless there's like some sort of like gigantic issue like they have the confirmed best way to do it. But he was, like I said, he was very honest with me. He said, "This is my plan. I want to turn it into a tech center. He wants to turn it into a financial center." And honestly, I don't know. His idea might be better than mine, but for right now, I just have to kind of believe that mine is better than his. I'm like, well, good thing the cameras aren't here, but like I said, unguarded moment, and like I said, I was so very, very impressed with him, just because he was able to be that real in that moment. But anyway, after about an hour, he said, okay, well, I have other commitments I have to go to. It wasn't just like linking up. He's like, yeah, I got the text message, and he's like throwing me on his phone. Like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, thanks for talking with me, and I'll see you later. So he takes off, and I was again by myself in the rain. And for people who've never stood in the rain for a great length of time, don't do it. People, there's a reason that they say that people, that it's a derogatory term to say that people don't have enough sense to come in out of the rain. It's not fun. It's just really not fun. Well, it kind of is, it kind of isn't. Just standing there doing nothing and just kind of like waving at one car every like 10 minutes that comes into the parking lot is like, hey, vote for this guy who I don't really care about anymore. If you're actually doing something in the rain, then it is kind of fun. I remember going to Cedar Point, which is the roller coaster park in Ohio several years ago. And if anyone knows anything about roller coaster parks, when it starts raining, they shut down everything. And we just happened to pick the wrong day to go there, and it did not just start raining. It poured for hours. And we're all the way in the back of the park, and we're just like drenched walking up towards the front because everyone's like, yeah, we're going to leave. And as soon as everyone's up here, and we're like, okay, well, whatever. So me and my friends, we just start like dancing around in the rain, and then we get up to the front, and we're already like completely soaked through to the bone. And there's this fountain at Cedar Point, like just inside the entrance, where they shoot water up, and you can actually like, go into the fountain, and they don't get mad at you. And we're like, why not? And so we danced in the fountain for like a half an hour until everyone else caught up with us. They're like, you people are stupid. And we're like, oh well, at least we had fun. Anyway, tangent over. Standing in the rain, it gives, the one thing it does do for you, if you have nothing else to do, is it gives you a lot of time to think about what you're doing with your life. And you're just like, oh man, I could be, like I said, at that point, I could have literally been anywhere else doing anything else and have been more productive than what I was doing, because there was like 3 people an hour while it was raining. And they all knew who they were voting for anyway. People who show up in the rain for our primary at 8 or 9 in the morning, trust me, they already have their minds made up. They are that dedicated. And people who show up later on, maybe they're not so sure. Like I had a guy come up to me like 12:30, whatever, after it stopped raining. He's like, hey, I don't really know anything about your candidate or any of the other ones. Can you help me out? I'm like, okay, well, here's my cursory understanding, and there's some stuff that I didn't frankly know about the candidate that I was potentially endorsing. I'm like, you know what, I didn't really know about this, and it really wasn't a big deal. It's like, you know, if that's something that bothers you, this other guy, I just talked with him for an hour. He's a great guy, so yeah, vote for him. Don't tell the guy I was helping. Not that any of you know who he is, but that's okay. But you stand there in the rain, it's like, wow. It's not just in that moment, but it kind of gives you just a moment to sit back, relax, and think, you know, there's some things that I've been doing wrong. There's some things that I haven't been doing at all. There's things that I need to be doing more of. It's a very introspective time, because you're literally stuck where you are. Maybe that's a better way to do it. Rather than get rained on, find a place where you're stuck where you are and you can't go anywhere. Like, have some friend drive you out to the middle of nowhere and just leave you for a couple hours and then come back. And you'll have like a completely different perspective on all of your life and everything that's been going on. And people can say, well, I can think at home, and like, but you can't really, because at home you're surrounded by the familiar. You surround yourself with, you know, your cell phone, your game system, your TV. Even if you turn all those off and like unplug them, you're still like, okay, well, when I'm done, I can do this and that and the other. There's a lot to be said for just being in a place where it's just you, and it's only you, and the only sort of stimulus that comes into your mind is what you generate yourself. And in those moments, at least I found, what will happen is your mind will start to come up with all the things that you have. It kind of turns into a self-beat-up session, so to speak. It's not like bullying yourself or like, oh yeah, the way worthless piece of crap. It's like, you know what, this thing that I've been doing, I could probably be doing it better, or I could be doing it differently, or maybe I shouldn't be doing it at all. And like I said, it's just a very introspective time. That's another aside, though. Not really the main point. I'm trying to get through this story. Anyway, so I'm out there in the rain, just having this conversation with myself for about 3-4 hours. Finally, like 11:30, the rain finally stops and people start showing up, and I'm waving to them, and I'm, like I said, I'm giving out like little bits of information and say, hey, vote for this guy, and getting the thumbs up. Yeah, I voted for you. Yeah, okay. And like I said earlier, it was a little bit striking to see how few people showed up, because I was there for, 7 to 2 was like 6 hours, something like that. And the entire 6 hours, there was 163 people who went in to vote. And I mean, like, actual people who could vote. There's people who, like, brought kids, and I didn't count the kids. But, like, people who looked of age to me to be able to vote, there was, like, 163 of them in 6 hours. And it's like, I understand people have jobs, and it'll probably pick up a little bit later on when they get off of them. But, holy crap. 163 people in this, in the place where I was, it's very heavily Republican based. I mean, whenever there's a voting thing, that district always goes Republican. I found that out talking to the other candidate that was standing there. And he's like, whoever basically wins this primary will win this part of the election, because it always goes Republican. Whoever the Republican candidate is in that area always wins. Just that's the demographic that's there. It's not any sort of conspiracy theory. It's just that's who lives there. There are a bunch of Republicans around there, and they always vote for Republican. And whoever the Republican candidate is from the primary, that's who gets voted in. Just the way it is. And I found it interesting that after hearing that there's, like I said, there's only 160 people in 6 hours, which is less than 30 people an hour. And it's like, man, actually that's, let me see. Okay, figure out how many, let me do some math here. So, it'd be 30 times 5. Yeah, less than 30 people an hour. It's just like, doesn't anybody care anymore? Doesn't anybody have any sort of sense of duty? You know, like, hey, this is my government. This is something I should be interacting with. I did vote in my precinct after I was done there. And even there was only like 130 some at like 5 o'clock. And the polls are like 3 hours away from being closed. There's only 130 people. It's like, where's your civic responsibility, your civic duty, you know? America, we're all together. We should be expressing our opinions through these polls. That's why they're there. If you don't like how your government is going, if you don't like how things are working out, that is your choice. That is your chance to say, hey, I don't like it. Let's change it, or let's have more of the same, or let's get farther on one way or the other, or please don't tax me more. Really big on that one, by the way. Really big on the don't tax me more. But and there's like nobody there. Nobody showed up. 100 people, yeah. Well, the district has like thousands of people there who are registered, who are maybe not registered, but they are of voting age, where they should be there. They have the ability to, under the law, they have the ability, hey, you know what? I have an opinion. I'm going to express it by checking the little box. Yay. But they weren't there. Just less than 10% of the people were there. It's like, probably like less than 0.5% were there. Because there's like hundreds of thousands of people in this area. I think in the entire Metro Detroit area, there's something like 4.3 million people. And we can't get even like 1,000 people to show up to express, hey, you know what? I have a thought about how our government is going. No one? At all? Again, it's one of those things that just doesn't make any sense to me, because like I said, I'm not heavily into all the politics and stuff. I know this is very, well, maybe not very, because I've had like 1,000 tangents into different things, but this is kind of a more politically based episode. But and like I said, I'm not super into politics. I am aware of them. I have my picks for 2016, who I want to be president and all that, but which is not, well, if you go back farther than my channel, you can probably figure it out. But but it's not something that I've ever done like massive amounts of, or nothing that I've ever put massive amounts of effort into really propagating. It's not something that I like track people down and be like, hey, you should listen to what I have to say about this. It's just not, like I said, I'm aware of it, and I think everyone else should be. It's just, I can't really like force my opinion on it to other people. They have to have the interest first and then go figure it out for themselves. And I'm just dumbfounded as to why people don't have that that drive within them to be like, hey, what is about to happen is going to affect my life in some way or another. Whether it's going to raise taxes, or it's going to shift the entire economy from one thing to another, or just something simple like they're going to put in roundabouts everywhere. Oh, dear God. Driving, I hate roundabouts. I'm back to driving. I'm better, like I said, so I'm getting back to driving. I haven't got a car yet, but I'm driving. I'm cognizant. I'm capable. Hate roundabouts, and it is like the new fad in Michigan to put roundabouts everywhere. Those of you who don't know what they are, look them up on Google or something, Google Images, Google Maps, whatever, and just pray to God they do not come to your area. It's an intersection that never stops. And that's the only way to really describe it, because it's just a mess. And they've been putting them in everywhere, and they're like, oh yeah, it's safer and keeps traffic flowing. Well, not so much safer. They put in one about like 15 miles away from me, at like a medium intersection, not one that gets a lot of traffic, but one that's used regularly. And since they put it in like 6 months ago or something like that, there have been like 50 crashes there, and it's like, holy crap! Like not in that area, at the roundabout where there's like, supposed to be less crashes and stuff like that, because it's supposed to be funneling the traffic and reducing this danger. And now they're going to put another one into this massive, huge intersection that is used by literally hundreds of thousands of people every day. And they're like, it'll be the greatest. And it's like, people are going to die, and you're not going to pay for it. They are, with their lives and their cars and their families. And they're just stupid people. Stop putting in roundabouts. But yes, hate roundabouts. I vote against them any chance I possibly get, and I will actively campaign by myself if I have to make sure that there aren't any more that go in. Yes, sorry. Little bit upset about those. Anyway, but that's the thing. Even little things, well, potentially little things, because they're literally killing people. We're in America. We have stoplights. We have stop signs. Sometimes we have yield signs. Sometimes. Usually it's like, okay, the light is red. We stop. There's a stop sign. We stop. The light is green. We go. There's no one around me. We go. Got it. It's simple. It's easy. Roundabouts. No, not roundabouts. Those are like, you guess. And if you're wrong, you die. And that's just the way it is. And they think it's wonderful. Let's put in more of these. No. It's stupid. It's dangerous. You are actively killing your own citizens by putting in these stupid things. What are you thinking? What are you smoking? Maybe that. Some of it, I wouldn't put it too far past them. Just saying. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't get so upset, but it's like the point of the government is the care of its citizens, not the killing of its citizens. Just stupid. Really, really, really stupid. Don't do this. It's bad. It's evil. Maybe not evil, but it's dangerous. And you're supposed to be helping people, not killing them. We need to have our politicians take the Hippocratic Oath, starting with do no harm. Really big and bold on there, so they can maybe figure it out. I'm sorry. And I understand other places in the world, they think that the greatest thing in the world, and they've had them for 100 years. Here, they're brand new, and nobody knows how to use them. And nobody wants to know how to use them, because the system we've had for the last 100 years works great. Sorry. I'm yelling again. I know I shouldn't. Anyway, be involved in your government. Do something. Like I said, you don't have to sit out in the rain for 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever it was, and just get soaking wet from it was bad. Just trust me, it was bad. And I had this little tiny umbrella. I'm getting a golf umbrella from now on. Like the ones you can swing under. Because like I said, I'm an incredibly large man, and I had this little itty bitty tiny umbrella that I got from my great grandfather. Just like, I'm not going to get too wet. Yes, I am. I'm just soaked. Just might as well close it up and throw it away. But well, no, it's actually an antique and it's worth some money, so I probably don't want to do that. But yeah, I probably shouldn't have even brought it with me now that I think about it. But that's another tangent for another time. Get involved. Like I said, you don't have to do anything crazy. Just care a little bit, and learn about the issues, what they actually mean. We just had some stuff pass here in Michigan, which I'm not happy about. And the reason that the way it was advertised to the public was fraudulent at best. They said that they were going to get rid of a tax, but if you actually read the proposal itself, it was actually we're just going to reduce this tax, and then we're going to give ourselves a gigantic open door to tax you on everything else. So yay us, screw you. And it's like, people read just a little bit, just a little bit. Read didn't take more than 5 minutes, and all you need is basic comprehension of what those words mean, and you can understand that this is a bad thing. But yes, we won't talk about that at all. Well, we'll talk. Well, we just did talk about it, but I'm sorry. This is one of the reasons why I try not to get too big into like politics or anything else on here, because I do, like I said, I'm aware of them, and some things I it's not so much that I care about it that much. I care about it and how it affects me, obviously, but it frustrates me that there are people who just don't care at all and didn't even take the time to read it or to vote for it or to do anything. And basically, this thing is now, well, it hasn't. I don't think it's passed. I think, like I said, this is the primary, so it'll probably be on the ballots in November, and hopefully it'll get shot down by then. But oh my word, I can't even begin to imagine how stupid some people are. That they don't. They're just like, okay, well, they said this, and I'm sure the government would never try to pull anything past me, never try and pull a fast one. So, yep, sounds good. Let's do it. Oh, you just took like 16% out of my paycheck that wasn't taken out last month. Why is that? I wondered to myself. Oh, it's because either I didn't vote against it or I voted for it because I didn't read it. And I just believed what they told me. Like I said, there's these things that just annoy me, and willful ignorance. Especially, this is the age of the internet. This is the age of the internet. 5 seconds, and you can have access to anything you could ever want to know and not want to know. There's just so much of it out there. And it's not used. Well, it's used, the internet is used, but it's not used in the context of, let me actually educate myself on what I need to know. Hey, this candidate says that he will lower taxes and fix the roads. Wonderful. But his track record says, well, instead of doing that, I'm going to raise taxes and I'm going to take a jackhammer to all the roads and we're going to leave them like that for the next 20 years. Well, gee, I wonder if I should believe the next word that comes out of your mouth. Probably not. But again, that's not usually how it works. People just kind of go, nah, he said it. Sounds good. Legit. Sure, politicians don't lie. Check. Sound good. I like ya. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm not going to get into like specific politicians. I haven't mentioned any so far, and I'm not going to. Though, believe me, I have done research, and they are very specific, and they are existing, and they're in government right now as having been elected, probably by people who haven't actually checked it out. Leaving it there. But yeah, so I was there 6 hours. Very educational experience. Like I said, if you ever have the opportunity to get involved in something like that, first of all, check the weather report. If it says rain, say no. Just educate yourselves on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't even have to be a daily thing. Just once a month, check in. Say, oh, they're trying to pass legislation to steal everyone's computer or something like that. I should probably be aware of this and vote no or sign a petition or something. They're everywhere. There's always some sort of counter to every argument. Just care a little bit. Just put some thought into it. Put a little bit of time. like 1 hour a month is really all you really need. And I'm a phlegmatic personality who likes to delve into every little itty bitty tiny minute detail and then break down that detail even more. And even I understand that it only takes about an hour a month to just be basically understanding of what's going on in the world. So, yeah. Anyway, I think I've rambled and ranted enough. Screw roundabouts. Don't raise taxes. Get involved in politics a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. Don't run. Well, actually, someone has to run eventually, otherwise we'll just all be screwed. Yeah. Hope you all have enjoyed. If you did enjoy it, like rating down below would be very much appreciated. If not, a dislike rating and a nasty comment telling me to get off my soapbox or something like that. I don't know. Stop sitting in the rain. And yeah, I thank you all for stopping by. Thank you all for listening to me. And I will see you all next time. Goodbye.